Guess who got brands talking? Brandlive.co.za.
Welcome back to the WITEE Chatterbots show as you continue your journey with us to become more inspired and connected. If you are new to the show, a very warm welcome. I'm Carmen, your host, and we are coming live from the Brand Live Studios 27 boxes in the Bohemian city of Melville. Now, the WITEE Chatterbots show, Women in Tech Empowering Everyone, aims to empower you by interviewing a wide range of remarkable and thought-provoking guests to discover as we navigate through the constant change around us. Now, we will explore topics on business, technology, innovation, and marketing, and give you bite-sized insights that can help you to propel forward and embrace the entrepreneurial culture. Today, I would like to welcome back Candice Goodman, the MD of Mobitainment. Woo!
Thanks, Carmen. It's great to be here. Great to be back.
Wonderful to have you back. Now, you've recently, your organization has been ranked in New York by the MMA Global Business Impact Index as the #1 technology provider in Africa, but also #8 top tech provider globally. I mean, that is such an incredible achievement. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. It was a big surprise. It was an award that we actually didn't submit for, so we got an email to let us know, and we quickly hopped on a plane to New York. It was very exciting.
Incredible. Well, a way to have a quick vacay.
It was a great weekend.
Oh, shame. The first and only ranking, that index apparently is the first and only ranking of agencies, advertisers, brands, and technology enablers driving significant business impact through mobile-first campaigns. So, yes, they did choose the right organization for that. So, well done to you and your team.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so this is why I actually wanted to bring you back into the studio. Since you are the best in Africa in the room, so that we can unpack mobile a bit, because I recently was having a discussion with a friend, and we were talking about mobile, and it was quite a thought-provoking conversation, if I might add. One of the things that was discussed was the future of mobile, and my friend turned around and he said, well, the future of mobile was 10 years ago. It's not today. Mobile's already here. So then I went and I thought, what are you saying kind of resonates, although I do see mobile as the glue that binds it all together. It's the catalyst and enabler of change, the remote to our lives. But at the same time, I was like, that's quite an interesting thought. So I went to go and do some research, and I discovered John Coetzee, who's a journalist for Forbes, and he said something that intrigued me as well, which said, what they say will happen is accurate in many cases, but not imminent. And jumping too soon into the next big thing is a sure way to drown in the rising tide of babble about the next big wave, which is a mouthful, but he was talking and referring to the death of mobile. And, I wanted to understand, Candy, let's just get straight into it. What is your views on this?
As you said, mobile is here. It's today.
Yeah.
What will come in the future, it might morph into something that looks totally different, but the principles of communication, of connectedness remain the same, whether it's a small square device, rectangular device, or whether it's something that we look into or attach to our ear as an earring. It doesn't really matter. It's the principles of connecting people that make the difference, and connecting with brands.
Yeah, it's like Tommy O'Hanan. That says mobile is there to make you mobile, right?
Correct.
So mobile could just be defined as a different kind of device.
Exactly.
I like that. We've seen a significant growth of smartphones in South Africa. What behavior shift have you seen since this penetration has really taken off?
Well, the one thing that comes to mind in terms of the smartphone penetration, yes, it's increasing, actually maybe even stabilizing. The latest smartphone statistics in terms of purchasing are stabilizing and even decreasing. But in terms of behavior, people might have smartphones, but there's still a big thing is data costs.
Yeah. It's true.
Huge things in emerging markets, specifically South Africa. You talk to the youngsters out there, they are spending a fortune in terms of data, and it's out of necessity because that's the way they get connected, that's the way they live their lives.
And also where they get the information. I think HDI Youth did a study, The Next Generation, and I saw Bongani had yesterday, I think, out of the students that they research, I think 16% of accessing the internet, I think 16% goes to research for varsity.
For sure.
And so it's also
You can't
paramount.
apply for a job, you can't varsity, connecting to your friends, etc. It's an absolute necessity. And these youngsters are spending 700 Rand a month on airtime and data.
It's
It's
shocking.
crazy.
You know, as you mentioned this, I saw a study was done by Wits University, and one of the things that they said is that Africa, 20% of the global population is from Africa. So we represent our continent, 20% of that statistic, but also only out of that 20%, 4% have access to the internet in Africa, which is something that's really, really scary. And I'll go in a little bit more in detail when we get to further down with some questions. But I think what you're saying is very true. It's like data is a big issue.
And just a tip for brands, I mean, we're making great strides ahead in
Yeah.
terms of providing information to people data-free.
See,
And that's absolutely huge. If you've got an Android phone, go into the Play Store, do a hashtag search for hashtag data free. You will see there are so many apps
wow.
out there that are actually data free. For anybody to download, you get SA News, you get soccer results, you get Cosmo magazine, etc., etc. And now we've got the opportunity to provide this functionality to brands so that they can take their site, wrap it up, and make it data free so that consumers out there can access their information without it costing them anything. And I think that's a huge game changer.
yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Yeah, no, especially if we think about what John Coetzee says, is like, you know, we are babbling on about where the future is taking us, and granted, there's a lot of exciting stuff which we should be excited about and not ignore, but there's also a lot of people that we need to bring along with us on this journey. So I totally agree with that. Now, another thing that I would like to ask you is, on the global stage, voice is very much a hot topic at the moment. So I think Google Assist, when they did their launch, and oh my goodness, I must say that looks very interesting. I think it could be very helpful. And the Amazon Alexa, which I recently received, which I still have to connect to the internet. But I just wanted to understand, like, even with the series and so forth, how do you think this particular technology will impact South Africa and even Africa? Like, what's your views on it?
It was a very hot topic in New York when we were there for the forum. And the one thing I learned out there is that in terms of voice, it'll definitely affect search in terms of brands. Because think of it. On voice, when you ask it a question, it's only going to provide you with the first answer. So you have to be number one in terms of your search results to be visible, well, audible in terms of voice. So that's just a huge tip that I can give to brands.
Yeah.
And I think it'll come to South Africa. We're a very chatty country, and I think it'll, in its own way, come into the marketplace.
Yes, I tend to agree with you. I also think that, as behavior starts changing, because, if you look at the connected marketer, the more connected devices you have to the internet, the more constantly connected you are, and the state of connectedness that you have, the more you start having, behavior changes, and those behavior changes make you a connected individual. So I do think, as we're seeing a lot of people adopting to a smartphone and having access to the internet, their way of engaging with technology will change. And I think after you discover that on your phone you've got a voice assistant that can actually enable and make life easier, I do think that it could become very valuable.
And also in terms of literacy levels in South Africa, voice helps a lot.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to type, you don't have to spell, etc., etc. So I think it's a great enabler.
As long as it's catering for our languages, I think one thing that I've seen, and specifically with mobile, and I think what I know that Mobitainment does really well is like, catering for the top languages in South Africa and creating communications around that. I think, if you look at a voice assistant, would it understand Zulu or Xhosa? What would it make out of those things, and how would you train these various or program these various? I don't know. It's just mind-boggling for me, because I do think that that's a very important factor to make it actually work.
I agree.
Yeah. So with that being said, chatbots. Now, chatbots is also the new cousin of mobile. And it's really been quite phenomenal to see the uptake, and also a very hot topic at the moment. Now, I just want to understand from you, what insights can you give us on what brands are currently doing on chatbots, and how do you think the uptake will be in the future?
Well, I just like to bring up the word WhatsApp. That's prolific in South Africa. 49% of South Africans are using WhatsApp. From students talking to each other, families talking to each other, to neighborhood watchers, to
That's true. It's true, yeah.
Stock fails, etc. I mean, even if they don't call it WhatsApp, they call it what.
Yeah, I know what. I know. I heard that at a conference. It was like hysterical.
They are all using it, and that is, and we're finding that is the most popular platform that brands are asking for. And there's the ability nowadays with the restrictions of WhatsApp, where you're restricted to groups of 256 with incoming. We will restrict the messages to only incoming. So how brands can use it is for client services, for incoming requests, not as a replacement to send out, to have a cheaper bulk SMS strategy.
Yeah.
So that's just some advice that I can give. And that seems to be working really well. I mean, you can use it for surveys, for registrations, for competition entry mechanics, for all sorts of things. And it's really, for example, we ran for a brand for Mother's Day where we captured their mom's words of wisdom, collated on a chatbot, and collated them all and put it into a video. And that really, really worked well. And the good thing about it is that you can write as much as you want. You're not restricted by the limitations of USSD, that it's going to time out, that you've got so many characters, etc. You basically getting involved with platforms that people use in their day-to-day lives. And that worked so well.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And, if you, also... you can send images, you can, you as you showed me early on, locations.
Yes, a location pin.
I mean, how awesome is
amazing.
that? It's like, at least you don't feel like Big Brother's watching. If they ask you to give you a location pin,
Yes.
It's far different than somebody automatically knowing where you are. Also, just on the WhatsApp. So let me just understand, if you use it for business, is it still restricted? Sorry.
Yes.
Is it still restricted to a certain amount of people in your group?
WhatsApp business verified accounts are not available in South Africa yet. We've been beta testing, but they're not available yet. But still, that there is that same restriction of the 256 members in a group, etc. So we just use it for incoming requests.
Okay.
And service those incoming requests.
So then it's different, because then you haven't created a group.
Correct.
Where if you had a group, because then everybody has to go to Telegram.
Correct.
Yeah.
And and the good thing about it is to start a conversation. You don't have to actually take that number, add it to your contacts, open up a WhatsApp, which is a pain. What we can give you is a link that you can put in an SMS or put it on a mobile ad. You click on it and it automatically opens up WhatsApp, and you just say hi and you start the conversation.
Yeah,
it
it's
really
so
works
cool.
well.
And it's just so much easier. And also you can do voice, which I really like about that.
Yes.
The other thing is what I was just thinking. Remember one of the conferences we attended where the guy was talking about the WhatsApp the campaign that they did in Tanzania.
Oh, yes.
Do you remember that?
Yes, and they had so many. Entries. It was crazy, and they had to, I think, change the number 15 times,
300 times.
or was it 300
It
times?
was 300 times.
That's absolute nightmare for brands.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to go there.
No. So don't create groups when you do WhatsApp strategies. It's only incoming messages. Guys, we're just going to go for a quick break, and then we will get back to this interesting conversation. Is mobile dead?
Making a bold statement yet blending into the surrounding suburbs of Melville, 27 Boxes is a realization of edgy design and practical implementation. A radical departure from the shopping malls of our generation, yet not a return to the high streets of our youth. 27 Boxes showcases the best of a shopping centre set in a garden, surrounded by the bohemian suburb that is Melville. 27 Boxes, shop, play, eat.
The station with the best music.
I love the music.
Best music.
brandlive.co.za.
Lunatic, 'cause I do what I want, and I get what I want when I want it. You know life can be so ordinary. Boy meets girl, they said, oh, make a baby.
brandlive.co.za.
Good morning, everybody. For those of you who've only tuned in now, you are tuned in to the WITEE Chatterbots show, Women in Tech, empowering everyone. And we are sitting here with Candice Goodman, MD of Mobitainment, but also #1 tech enabler in Africa. And we are talking about this whole, or debunking the whole myth is, the death of mobile coming. And we're talking about how mobile is actually morphing into various different types of ways. And we were talking about the chatbots before we went for the break, and specifically around WhatsApp. But what I wanted to ask you, Candice, if you had to look at a chatbot, do you think that it will replace USSD apps? What is your views on that?
I think USSD has its place still. It's very fast. It works really well. It can manage capacity really well. But I think definitely the advantages of chatbots are coming. And the more we move on to smartphones, the more we bring down the cost of data, the more people will be, and the more bundles we get on WhatsApp, for example, the more people will be using it instead. And I think the South African market is very used to this conversational type question-answer conversation that brands have, and that's very suited to a chatbot sort of scenario with the added advantages of images and location and etc. So I think it will change, but still USSD is here and now as well.
But something also very interesting, I think we had a discussion about this a while ago, was regarding how it will actually simplify communication in Africa, where, some countries don't have USSD in Africa. So, that's a restriction that you don't have, and you can just you can get through a lot of hoops. Like I always see that Chinaman running over the hurdles. Have you seen that? Where he runs over the hurdles and finds a very different way of running over these hurdles. Anyway, that's how I see chatbots just getting to an audience a different way.
That's Africa for you. It's the leapfrogging technology. You found a way under, over, in between.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I recall you always saying Africans solving African problems. We always find our own ways. Anyway, so furthermore, mobile innovation, I think a lot of people perceive it in different ways. So I think let's debunk the myths. What is mobile innovation, and what does it actually mean for us? What do you think is mobile innovation?
Well, innovation is creating something new. So all it means is evolution, finding new ways of solving problems that we have, and being creative around the technologies that we have. And the number one instigator of that, specifically in Africa, is finding solutions to existing problems. That's how we've innovated.
Exactly. And I think that's the most important thing. It's not about the new emerging technologies. It's meeting your customer where they're at and understanding the challenges and hurdles that they have and how you can communicate with them as a brand, meeting them halfway. I mean, like, sometimes I'm fascinated, and please, by all means, I love future emerging technologies. I'm a big fan. I think if I could do augmented reality and virtual reality every day of my life, I probably would. But it's not necessarily a fit for every single market, and everything has its place. Like, I do believe VR lives specifically in the education space. You know, it plays a very important role for youngsters, and also it can bridge the communication between language barriers. There's so many various interesting ways, and also like surgeons are learning how to do surgery through technology like VR. So I'm not dismissing new technologies, but if we look at mass market, I think it's very important to understand and go back to the basics and the fundamentals of understanding what your consumer wants, and then trying to put the technologies together in a different way that best serves the customer.
Did you watch? I don't know if anybody watched Carte Blanche on Sunday night, but
It's depressing.
this was an uplifting section. They talked about an app called Abelobi,
Yeah.
which it's developed in South Africa. It's the Uber of the fisherman market.
Mm-hmm.
And what they've done is they've taken out the middleman and used an app to match the fishermen out there to restaurants, small restaurants. So the fishermen can actually create a marketplace and sell their fish that they catch that day and deliver it to a restaurant. And that solved so many problems just in terms of financial viability for the small fishermen, the variety of the different fish that we are now being able to bring to the restaurants in South Africa that we haven't absorbed before, and sustainability of the fishing market. So just one piece of technology can solve all these problems. And talk about reaching the mass market. That's something that you're reaching the mass market with technology to make a difference, so that fisherman can send his kids to school.
Very cool. I think I saw something similar in Philippines as well with the fishermen. I must actually send you that case study. I can't remember all the detail, but very good points. Another one is Kenya. I mean, with the agriculture, how they've managed to also cut the middleman out.
Sure.
And that has been, I mean, even Barack Obama celebrated that, but I can't remember the name of the app. Or not was the app, it was USD actually.
It doesn't.
I
The
can't
channel
remember.
doesn't
Channel
matter.
doesn't matter, yeah.
It's the premise of matching
Correct.
people together that
Correct.
technology can provide.
Actually, further to your point, this morning I saw a interesting innovation. Maybe it's not mobile innovations, but it definitely enables mobile innovation. Was that thing at the University of Witwatersrand? They created so a big problem, as we discussed, is this whole data issue and people having access to data, and specifically in the rural areas. And the physicists and the students and some of the innovation teams created this new product. It's called a FSO, and is a network of communication channels through air. So they basically can distribute Wi-Fi through the air. And they're actually going to commercialize this very soon, and they've started using it on the campus, where students from all distance, and how they manage to get Wi-Fi to travel through air. And it's just, for me, mind-blowing. It's like we have the Einsteins of Africa. I love these things.
I'm so proudly African.
I love it. So, yeah, that was quite an interesting one for me. And I think that this is just another example showing how Africans are solving African problems. But just another thing that I would like to bring up is, we as consumers obviously have so many decisions to make on when it comes to products and services and to break through the clutter. But now it's the same problem for marketers and for businesses. The technology landscape from last year to this year has grown with 2,000 technologies in the MarTech landscape.
I'm feeling it.
So basically, we started in 2011 with 150 technologies. Now we're sitting on 7,000 technologies in a very short amount of time. So breaking through that clutter and making the decisions on what technology is the right technology for you is also a huge challenge for businesses. What boo-boos do you see in the marketplace of, you don't have to name any brands, but maybe boo-boos that you see with where technologies are adapted for the sake of technology?
That's exactly my point. My one tip is do not use technology for the sake of just using technology, just to show that your brand is using it's avant-garde or on the edge of technology. You have to look inwards, look at the issues that you have, and then do your homework to try and see how technology can actually fix those problems. I think it's more of an introspective way of doing things than looking out at what is available. And then obviously making use of experts out there who are in the know, because it does take a lot to keep your finger on the pulse in terms of what's out there.
Yeah. And also, I think also is, there's always this thing being first, but being first is not always the right thing to do. And I think it's important to choose your technology enablers, the right partners to work with. And you being a technology enabler, what advice can you give brands, entrepreneurs, when they have to choose technology enablers to make sure that they don't get exploited, but that they truly choose technology enablers that they can collaborate with?
I think the number one thing is to look for independence, that they're not pushing one technology over another because they're going to get financial gain. So I think they have to match the technology to the purpose or the objective that you have and be independent doing so. And obviously having the track record and being in the know of implementing and making these technologies work, not just talking the talk.
Yeah, but how would you know if somebody's independent though? Like you wouldn't know what kind of agreements or partnerships that, which tech they are developing in-house, which is outsourced. So it's quite a difficult thing to do, though.
It is, but I think you have to quiz them, understand why they're not going for certain solutions, understand why they're not going for certain solutions rather than going for others.
Yeah. So also, I think a very important point to that is that you have to understand the technology, because you can't brief a technology enabler if you don't understand the technology. And if you don't have a broad understanding of what the capabilities of those technologies are, otherwise you'll be a feather in the wind.
And that's why I think the Connected Marketer course that I've just been on is such an incredible day spent, because it puts you in the shoes, not necessarily understanding all the technologies out there from a technical point of view, but understanding what questions to ask, how to ask them, and putting yourself in the know so you ask the right questions. It's all about that.
Yeah, and I think just further to your point, I mean, yes, I totally also found value out of that course. Is also the need states of consumers and the journeys that they go on, because what we tend to do is we always go back to our lingo as marketers and we never think about the customer. And I think one thing about working with you was always putting the customer first, and it's really reverse engineering those journeys and solving the problems, thinking of the customer and not about your brand.
Yes.
And it's how your brand can be served.
Because at the end of the day, it's a person at the end of that cell phone. It's not about technology. It's about connecting with that person. And the old-fashioned way of marketing, speaking to people, making them feel special, and connecting with them still works. It's now just enabled with technology.
Yeah, and it's just automating it better.
Exactly.
I think that's
streamlining it, making it
exactly.
faster, making it being able to reach more people.
100%. And I mean, you can serve exactly that. I mean, it's like, you can have an technology that can serve 1 million people as opposed to 10,000 people without it crashing down, like, like we used to have in the heyday. Oh my goodness. But this brings me to my last question. Before we go to our 1 minute game. So many brands and businesses and everybody out there is talking about their 2020 vision and their 2030 vision and where they want to go. But I'm going to ask a different question. What do you think is the customer's vision for 2020 and 2030? What do they want?
I think it's still what's in it for me. Brands need to look at fixing people's problems and providing a service to them rather than thinking about pushing their own product. And customers are starting to feel that and starting to expect that more and more. And evaluating brands based on that basis.
And I think there's so many various touch points. There's so much product pollution out there anyway. So if one brand, there's nothing that really differentiates one brand from the other. So if one brand can't do it right, you'll pay a premium to go to another one. Price can sometimes be a proxy. But I think also it's very important to understand that when it comes to your customers' needs, I think that whole ego, thinking your product is the best thing that exists, is a very dangerous avenue to take, because you do have competitors, maybe not in the way that you think. One advice I had from one of my friends is like, when you look at somebody that if you give them a basket to walk into a shopping center, they have a 300 Rand budget to buy some groceries. They're not necessarily competing against the different types of beans. You're competing with a toothpaste, you're competing with a bread, and what is more important for them to put in that basket. So I think it's important to always keep that in mind. It's
and you're competing with airtime and data.
Airtime and data, which is just as important. So yeah. Okay. So Cans, by tradition, get ready for this one. I've made yours a bit more challenging. Okay, on your marks,
ready.
Get set, go. If you could orbit around a planet, which planet would it be?
Earth.
I knew you were going to say that. Explain the internet.
Series of connected computers that talk to each other and enable sharing of information.
Oh, well done. How would you direct someone else on how to cook pasta?
That's easy. Boil water, put salt in it, get it to the boil, put the pasta in, take a fork, taste it, and add sauce.
Okay. What are the titles of the last 3 books you've read?
I'm reading at the moment.
No swearing.
Quickly! A Ken Follett book on it's the last series of The Pillars of the Earth that I'm really, really enjoying, about life in the 1500s.
Okay, what's your favourite flavour ice cream?
Coffee.
Okay, what's your sign and why?
Why? Because I was born a Taurus.
Okay,
Did I not made it?
You made 6.
Okay.
But I did make it difficult for you. Okay. There was one I really didn't want to get to, because I know that you
ask
have
it anyway.
Which is, name one thing that you're completely superstitious about.
My goodness, Carmen.
I know the answer to that.
Pouring wine backwards.
Yes! Water, like wine. Oh my goodness. I remember us sitting at a conference one day and you were like gently taking my bottle of water and swapping it around. I was like, what is going on here? But yeah, there's something very sweet. Anyway, Candy, thanks for a very interesting chat. I really enjoyed it. It was so nice to catch up.
Thank you for making it so easy, Cons.
So to our listeners, I hope you found today useful. Candy will actually be joining us next week to co-host, and we'll be interviewing Mo, and we're going to talk about stockpiles. I think it's time that we have some serious conversations about that and how businesses can get involved there, and also the role that mobile plays in stockpiles, and you've done some amazing work in that industry. So we would like to thank Brand Live Radio for the innovative container studio and for making the show possible, and listen to other shows on www.brandlive.co.za. You can also find our shows on either Castbox or iTunes when you search for Booyah by Carmen Murray. Please rate our show to help others find it. Thank you, Gold Studios, who manages our shows on iTunes and Castbox. Don't forget to tune in next week, same time, same place. Arrivederci. Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
Guess who got brands talking? Brandlive.co.za